All right. So, shall we move on to a very strange discovery from space?
Oh, we can talk about space. Nobody lives in space. Well,
that we know of. So, this is a strange signal that was discovered coming from one of Jupiter's moons.
Yeah.
And not one that you would think. This one is Ganymede. And it's not one that we
stupid name.
It's not one that we talk about.
I'd like to find a scientist that named that one and just slap the shit out of them.
So Ganymede is Jupiter's largest moon.
Do you think the other moons like go Ganymede?
You know they do, because it's the largest moon, so you know they're making fun of it all the time.
Ganymede. Shut up, you guys. I can't hear what my name is.
So, sorry. NASA recently extended the life of 2 of its planetary discovery missions, including the Juno mission to Jupiter, because Juno has discovered an FM signal emanating from the moon Ganymede.
An FM signal?
An FM signal.
Like 96K rock?
I guess. Well, it's funny because this article goes to great lengths to explain how this is not an indication of extraterrestrial life, that it's not ET, that it's just a natural function of the moon, yet they've never detected this before. You know, this is the first time that they've found this. So, as a spacecraft, what happened to be traveling across Jupiter's polar region, it crossed the radio source and it only saw the radio emission for about 5 seconds, but that was long enough to confirm the source. And I did read in one article that this particular source of radio wave is called a decametric radio emission, and they likened it...
Decametric sounds fun.
They likened it to like our Wi-Fi that we use on Earth, which I thought was interesting. Like it's sort of the same kind of concept, but they claim that this is, you know, a natural process that happens, and
natural
it just
FM
sort of
signal.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Recording. So, and it's caused by electrons. That's what's doing it.
Wait a second, I'm getting a call.
Mm-hmm.
Ring, ring. Ring, ring. Yes, you're on the air with the Sideshow. What can I do for you? Oh, yeah, this is Johnson. Hey, Johnson, you're quite the celebrity. So, what do you got for me, bud? Well, I was just listening to the live feed. Well, we're not live, pal. Well, you are for me. I work for the CIA. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So give it to me, buddy. You got a leak for me? Well, I do actually. You talking about Ganymede? Yes, we're talking about Ganymede. Well, I've got the signal here, and you gotta excuse me. It takes a minute for it to get back to Earth and to our satellites, and then it mirrors from Kentucky straight to here. Why does it mirror from Kentucky? Well, because they don't question why there's a mirror on the side of the road. Oh, okay. All right. So I didn't know mirrored means actual mirrors. But, all right. So you got the signal. What is it, just a bunch of like dots, dashes, slight like static or anything cool like that? Well, not exactly. I can play it for you. Yeah, we're all ears. So let's hear the FM signal coming from Ganymede. Hey guys, listen. This is a Sideshow exclusive, okay? You guys got to get your friends and you gonna let me play it? Jesus. All right, Johnson. Waiting. Having a little trouble. Okay, I think I got it. Ready? 3, 2. Oh, Johnson.
That wasn't funny.
Not you. I can't believe you rickrolled us. Johnson. Here. Got it. Oh, wow. Yeah, no. I can't believe we got rickrolled. I apologize deeply for that, folks.
Yeah. That's what we get for answering Johnson's phone call.
Yeah, Johnson's going to lose his... He called in on the Antonio line, weirdly enough.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah, I thought so, too. I mean, that's really weird.
Gotta change that ring.
You said you had to sleep on the couch last night, right? But you had the machinery down there. Did that not bother you? Did anybody call in or...
No.
Okay. All right. Anyway, continue on.
Anyway, so this FM signal that they've found, even though they're claiming that it's natural, it's done by electrons, they know what it is, it has caused them to extend the life of their missions now, which I thought was a little interesting because it was scheduled to stop functioning. The Juno mission is scheduled to stop functioning this year, like in July.
This year?
This year, yes. But now it's going to continue until 2025.
You know, wouldn't it be strange? Mm-hmm. Because there's some weird stuff that happens. Like Voyager 1 will die. Mm-hmm. You know, they'll be like, folks, it's dead. They'll have a funeral and everything. And then like 8 months later, it's back.
Yeah,
you know?
It just powered itself back up.
Or you know, like the Martian, you know, rover, like cleaning itself off.
Right, right.
All this stuff. They're like, it's a wind event. And
didn't they lose one once?
Yeah.
And then it just reappeared.
Yeah,
we looked there like a million times. There it is.
Oil change and all this stuff. Wouldn't it be weird if when it left our fabric of reality, our planet, and got into deep space, if they became sentient beings?
Possibly.
And
we don't know what happens.
And we're God to them, to the satellites that we've created, we've sent throughout the universe. So they know there's God and angels somewhere, but they don't. They're not really sure where the voices come from. You know, they just know they feel like they've got these little things they need to do,
right?
And they kind of do it naturally,
they feel like compelled.
They find a place and they film it and everything, and they get what feels like instructions inside their hearts. They don't actually hear anyone, you know, much, but every now and then, you know, and they really want life, and they're like, my God, I just found this cool signal here on this planet, and if only I could live longer. And poof,
they can live longer. 5
years extra. I didn't know they could extend life like that. I mean, I know that they can shut off some things, and that's how they've got some of the probes and things to last longer. Is they'll shut down this or shut down that. There's one of them, and I can't remember which one. It's so dead that it's got like one little poof that they put out every now and then to have it. Right.
I think now they just fly them into planets and stuff, don't
they?
Yeah,
right, they do that a lot. Yeah, yeah, because that's going to start interplanetary war. I can't wait till we get to a planet that's like where they're in like their Stone Age, and we get there and all it is these really crappy satellites we've built in the past, like where they've got stone monuments up and you know what I'm saying?
Because we crashed them all into their planets.
Or they found like the record with the naked humans on it, and they've drawn that exact thing over everything. I would mistreat the Prime Directive. Like, yes. I have to admit, I've always wanted to do space travel, and I would go right now if they called me right this second. They're like, look, there's a good chance you're not going to ever come back. Okay. And I've thought this out because when they send you on those missions, there's a 0 chance you're going to come back.
Right.
But they always put their if, you know, because I guess things could happen, like, you know, interplanetary. I'm like, they could come up with like the ray or something to.
Right. You never know.
To charge you here and there, like Star Trek, which they've talked about doing. And I think they've done it with particles, actually. I think so. Beam them up, you know. But I would actually go. I would go. I mean, in a heartbeat. And funny enough, the real book for Planet of the Apes, which blew me away, is fantastic. And the astrology, the math, the science in the real book for Planet of the Apes is so dead on correct.
Wow.
And even with its age, the way they do it, the way they're traveling, all this stuff, and they have this mission to go to this planet. I mean, it's a lot different than the movie, right?
Right.
But that's one of the deals. Like, they're going to this planet, and they're gonna be stuck there. And, you know, it's like the one that was Earth-like, and they knew they could get there, and all this stuff. And they finally get there, and of course, you know, the rub is it is Earth, you know. Anyway, they're like, wow, this looks just like Earth, you know.
Isn't that weird?
It's so bizarre. So bizarre. But I believe that if I showed up at a planet and there was like screwable life forms.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, to be screwable just means you have to have a hole. And
it's a lot of information in that sense. Okay. Continue.
I didn't mean that bad.
Right. Just roll with it.
I'm just saying, I meant I wouldn't make a hole or anything. Right?
No, I got you.
Okay. So if we got there, and I should have said sentient.
But you didn't.
So you get there and there's sentient beings, okay?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they're, looking at me like I'm a god.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would have a hard time not being a god.
Right.
Even if it was for 20 years and then I died and they figure out, well, he wasn't a god.
Mm-hmm.
I would have a hard time, wouldn't you?
I have never put that much thought into it.
Really?
Yeah.
You've never thought about landing on a planet and
No.
having them all like drop to their knees?
No. I mean, going to space was never something I ever thought about doing, so.
Oh, man. Really?
Yeah.
You never had a desire to fly into space?
Mm-mm.
Like deep space?
No.
I don't want to orbit the Earth.
I worry about stuff too much. I couldn't do it.
I don't want to orbit the Earth because that's nerdy. Like, I just don't.
You're like, I've seen this planet.
Well, I mean, I've seen it done. That's what makes me mad about it. Is I don't care. Like, I know the Earth's not flat.
Mm-hmm.
It bothers me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think we should be way further than we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that has something to do with, I think we are further than we are. I think there's absolutely secret space programs.
Mm-hmm.
And, we were watching a really great documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And you fell asleep toward the end, but you made it through a lot of it.
I did.
And this documentary was on Amazon, and it was about Phil Schneider.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil Schneider, for those of you who don't know, was the whistleblower, very brave whistleblower in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. He really started making the rounds after all this had happened. And I mean, he's got an insane story. Mm-hmm. Because he didn't remember a whole lot of stuff. His dad was part of like the Philadelphia experiment with pictures and everything. Mm-hmm. And it even goes into like the aliens that are working with the government with pictures and mm-hmm. all this good stuff. And the thing was in Dulce, I call it Dulce, you can call it Dulce, whatever, tomato. But in Dulce, they have these deep underground military bases, or DUMBs, mm-hmm. as they call them, and he was talking about how they were going down and they were building it and digging down very deep, and they went so far down, and they had like U.S. Delta Forces, Green Berets, and there was these grays. I mean, traditional grays down there in the tunnel when they got down there, and they had plasma guns or whatever, and they shot, and there was a firefight, and some of them were killed, and like some of the Green Berets were killed, and Schneider himself got blasted right in the gut, mm-hmm. and had the wounds. I mean, he was messed up. I don't think anybody's ever disproved this. I mean, his history is there. Mm-hmm. What he did is there. You can find it or whatever. And I don't know. It's a hell of a story, mm-hmm. and it's very interesting. You can find it all over YouTube. The original like clips of him talking at these things, but it even goes to his death. His death was very, very mysterious, mm-hmm. and he felt like it was coming, and it was because of certain things. Of course, you can't go around whistleblowing like that, but just nuts, man. But if you get a chance, you should really go and look for that. What was the name of that documentary?
It's called The Underground, and it'll say it's the director's cut is the one we watched, and it'll say the true story of Phil Schneider, and it's only about an hour long, but it's very well done. Yeah, and super interesting. Yeah,
it really is. It really is. But there you go. There's your little. You need to watch this on this guy.
Well, according to this article that we were talking about the FM signal coming from Ganymede, it does say that they've known about radio waves on Jupiter since around the 50s, but this is the first time that it's ever been seen emanating from Ganymede. And recently, like in 2018, they observed what they call, quote, extraordinary electromagnetic waves, also known as chorus waves, also coming from Ganymede. So it's not the first time that they've noticed something strange about this moon. And they also claim that it's home to an ocean that, quote, could be habitable.
Wow.
So definitely one of the more interesting moons that you don't hear about that much, but possibly we'll be hearing more from it. And I thought the signal thing was very strange, and how hard they were, trying to say, look, this is an ET, so don't even say that. So
Yeah, I mean, especially when they say it like that, right?
When they feel the need to point it out several times.
And what's really weird to me is the fact that they tell us that at all.
Right.
Like the fact they tell us about any part of the discovery. And it goes back to a lot of the Illuminati stuff. Apparently, with the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, Bilderberg, the government, church, whatever. They tell you, like, that's the thing about it. Like, they'll come out and tell you what they're going to do. And then they do it. And of course, a lot of times when they tell you what they're going to do, like, for instance, the vaccine that's coming out to cure the disease. There was a guy that was working on, I think somebody from Pfizer or something, back in December, was like, yeah, we're going to have everybody sterile, and it was like he misspoke. Right. Saying the word sterile, but if you were in that position and that job representing that product, right. Would sterile be in your vocabulary? You know what I mean? Like, especially with some of the stuff that's happened. Like, think about like the Native Americans.
That's that important.
Yeah.
I mean, would you really not be extra careful?
With population control, and Bill Gates, who has said that we need population control, has come out and said it, that we need to depopulate. I mean.
And the fact that every time you see someone supposedly getting their shot on TV, so one of the major players, one of the bigger people, they're not really getting it. Like, there's been evidence that it looks like the needle's not uncovered, or they're not actually pushing the plunger, or something. Really? Something crazy. Have you not seen any of those videos?
No, not yet.
There was one where this doctor was supposedly getting it, and you could see the guy giving him the shot. The plunger was already pushed into the shot. He pulled it back and then pretended like he did it again. Like, it was so ridiculous.
Wow. Wow.
And I think there's a picture of the one. Now, I can't say this is a real picture, but like when Nancy Pelosi supposedly got it, the cover was still on the needle. So not so sure she actually got it. So I don't know. This is completely off the subject, but I got to tell you this. This is because it kind of has nothing to do with the subject, but it's kind of funny because of just planning and if you're going to fake something kind of thing. Right. So I'm not going to give the whole history of Memphis Wrestling, but Memphis Wrestling was the biggest, most watched wrestling in the entire world at one time. And their amount of TV sets, like their share, right? I don't think it beats like what happened in Japan. And there was a famous series of matches in Japanese wrestling where literally their share was like 95%. So out of every 100 televisions, 95 were tuned to this match. Okay. It was so big. There's pictures you can still look up online in stores when they sold TVs and put them in the window. Right. Where there's thousands of people watching from there, because not everybody had a television set. Right. And they would set up big screens in parks, and tens of thousands of people. Like, that was the biggest thing. And the reason was these matches took place in the 50s. And that's when the Japanese wrestling really started over there. And this guy who they thought was Japanese, but he wasn't. That's a whole nother story. But he was their national hero. It was honestly them getting back at the United States. They don't term it as that, but but it was him against a American. And it was like 10 years after they got blown off the face of the world, you know what I mean? And for whatever reason, a lot of innocent people died in that. I mean, regardless. And so it had to feel kind of good, because that's the only get back they've ever got. So anyway, fast forward from that amazing little story to Memphis Wrestling. Memphis Wrestling, all 60s, 70s. TV5 down there is the largest channel in Memphis. And every Saturday morning, they would have the TV5 Wrestling, and it'd be live for 2 hours in the studio. And in Memphis only, it was live. And then they would like bicycle it through the rest of their territory. But that Memphis Wrestling, the ratings, there was nothing that came close at any time during the week. Right. Anytime that came close to the ratings this got. And there was no other market anywhere that got the ratings. And I'm talking, man, virtually everybody in that city was watching it. Enough that in Mid-South Coliseum every week, they would sell out 10,000 people. Think about that. On a Monday night, every week, 8 to 10,000 people. Okay? For years and years and years and years. So I got curious, and I was doing a little studying because of the podcast we're doing now. Right. And
I was going to do a history of Memphis wrestling.
Right.
Well, the only part I'm weak on is the end, because I didn't really care. I was already wrestling myself.
Mm-hmm.
And Power Pro Wrestling is what it ended up being called. And I know that they even had a big angle like in 2000, and I wanted to go back and be like, well, why didn't that work? I know it led to their demise.
Right.
And it was a whole thing where there was another group, and that group was WWE developmental guys, and Jerry Lawler was part of it and everything. And he was coming back and invaded Channel 5, and so it was that same studio of the one I watched so much from the early 80s.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's cool. And Jerry Lawler comes out there, and So the next week they attack him. He's like, if you do that, I'm going to come back with a bunch of WWE wrestlers next week, and we're going to tear the door down. We're coming to beat you all up.
Right.
So they beat him up anyway. Well, then there's the next week, and they're like, oh, we hear there's a disturbance in the back. So let's get a camera back there, Jimmy, and it's got a camera going back there, and you got to think this is broadcast live there.
Right. Right.
So the camera gets back there, and there's this little old security man, okay? This little security man. First, you got the good guy wrestlers on this side of the door. Mm-hmm. The camera, you're looking down the hall, and you're looking out, and it's 11 a.m., and it's sunshine, and you see like all these wrestlers standing about 5 feet away from the door.
Right.
And this little old security guy with a little flashlight walks in, like no big deal, and he nods to the guys, and he walks on, and the live Dave Brown and the live announcers are kind of trying to put it over. They're like, well, there was obviously somebody that got in there, and we don't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden, it's like, go. And you've got the good guys go over and they're barring the door. And it's like, well, it looks like they're barring the door. Now, these guys have been standing on the other side of this door the entire time. Right. And then all of a sudden, it's like somebody told them action, and then they're like, making this sound just like that.
Their timing was off, wasn't it?
Trying to get in the door, and then they punch through the window or whatever, and I watched it like 5 times. I almost peed myself, and I was like, well, I guess that's it. Probably that's probably what did it. I mean,
most likely,
when you expose the business, you just might as well just go all the way out. I mean, I can't. The very fact that the announcers kept going to try to make it seem legitimate.
Normal.
Yeah. And the other funny part to it is when Lawler came out the week before, he was like, when we used to have the best ratings ever, it was because we had guys like me and Dundee and Dutch Mantel and the Fabulous Ones and all this stuff. And he's like, you're like, what, 5 foot tall, 150 pounds, and he's like calling them all out for how small they are,
right?
And which is a no-no in wrestling, right?
Right.
Because I was told Ricky Morton from the Rock and Roll Express, I did some promos against him. We were going to have a series of matches against the Rock and Roll Express, and I was calling him a fossil and a dinosaur and all this stuff, and they dug him up in gray on a dig and all this stuff, and 1986 called. They wanted their haircut back, and all these things, right? The wrestler was going to be based on his life, but they needed a feel-good story. So I did all these things like that, and he got me in the back, and he's like, he's smoking a cigarette. It's always my Ricky Morton thing, but he's like,
right.
So let me ask you this: I'm old, I'm a dinosaur, and I'm like, well, I was just working. No, I got you. So I'm old. I'm a dinosaur. So let me ask you this, kid. What happens when that dinosaur whoops your ass? What does that make you? I was like, oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking that when I'm sitting here watching this. So when those guys show up the next week, they literally are twice these guys' sizes. Every one of those WWE trainees are like 6'5", muscular, good looking, tanned, Zubaz is on and freaking, fanny packs. I mean, they look like wrestlers.
Right.
That comes with the wrestling gear.
It's standard.
It is standard.
Standard issue.
And the other guys look like your normal stupid backyarder, 150 pound. It was really like, I was like, okay, well, that was true. Yeah. Nobody's going to believe this. And then they actually beat them all up for real and left them all laying. Wow. And I was like, okay, why would you, So anyway, I get it. That's funny. And I just don't understand why people don't take a little bit more care. If you're going to fake something, you're going to fake it. You're going to fake a shot.
if you know you're going to be on live TV, you
Yeah.
better be clean with it, you know?
I would have shot her with vitamin B or something.
Yeah, or saline, anything.
Jesus
I mean,
knows she could use it. I mean, well, I'm just saying she's probably tired from all the
Right.
all the work.
Right.
So
right.
anyway.
All right. So let's move on, shall we?
Yeah.